Hello, welcome back to another episode. Yes. Oh, wait, what was that? It felt like contentment or something. So, how can I not be so upset all the time? So worried all the time? You worry about the future, you worry about the present. The things I did in my past. Ah, how can you get this contentment? One thing I like to say is whatever you're doing right now is the best. That's the way I like to live my life. So, how can I find contentment no matter what? Let's learn from the scriptures together.
Proverbs chapter 14, verse 30. The life of the body is a heart at peace, but envy rots the bones. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 23. The fear of Yahweh leads to life, then contentment. He rests and will not be touched by trouble. 1 Timothy 6, verses 6 through 10. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we certainly can't carry anything out. But having food and clothing, we will be content with that. But those who are determined to be rich fall into a temptation, a snare, and many foolish and harmful lusts, such as drown men in ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some have been led astray from the faith in their greed, and have pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Hebrews 13, 5-6. Be free from the love of money, content with such things as you have. For he has said, I will in no way leave you, neither will I in any way forsake you. From Deuteronomy 31:6. So that with good courage we say, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? From Psalm 118, verses 6-7. Proverbs 17:22. A cheerful heart makes good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Luke chapter 3, verse 14. Soldiers also asked him, saying, What about us? What must we do? He said to them, Extort from no one by violence, neither accuse anyone wrongfully. Be content with your wages. Proverbs chapter 15, verses 15-17. All the days of the afflicted are wretched, but one who has a cheerful heart enjoys a continual feast. Better is little with the fear of Yahweh than great treasure with trouble. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a fattened calf with hatred. 1 Corinthians 7, 12-13. But to the rest I, not the Lord, say, if any brother has an unbelieving wife, and she is content to live with him, let him not leave her. The woman who has an unbelieving husband, and he is content to live with her, let her not leave her husband. Proverbs 23, verses 17-18. Don't let your heart envy sinners, but rather fear Yahweh all day long. Indeed, surely there is a future hope, and your hope will not be cut off.
So, what did we learn about contentment? This passage from 1 Timothy chapter 6 really struck with me. In 6, it says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain." Godliness. We're putting our hope in God. We're trying to please God and live for God and enjoy God. So if you couple that with contentment, it's enough. When are things enough? So in verse 7, it says, "For we brought nothing into the world, and we certainly can't carry anything out." We have a phrase, at least in America, that says, "He who dies with the most toys wins." Very true with verse 7. We can't bring anything with us. So if we search out God, the things we get from God are eternal. We can't lose them. And in verse 8, "But having food and clothing, we will be content with that." I mean, what really do we want? Do we need a fancy new car and fancy houses? They bring us a lot of trouble. As verse 9, "But those who are determined to be rich fall into a temptation, a snare, and many foolish and harmful lusts, such as drown men in ruin and destruction." When your self worth, your image is all wrapped up into being rich. And then what does rich mean? If I have $1 million, am I rich? Oh, no, I want 2 million. If I have 2 million, I want 5 million and then 10 million. It never ends. So that is part of the temptation in the snare. You'll do anything to be rich. But once you're rich, you just want more. And verse 10, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." So I've heard this says, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." But I know it actually says a root. It's one of the roots for all kinds of evil. You'll just do anything to be rich. Some have been led astray from the faith in their greed and have pierced them through with many sorrows. You know, a lot of people who strive just to be rich end up with nothing. They work all the time, or they have failed relationships, or they get it. They put all this work and they're not happy with what they get. So, what does this have to do with contentment? You know, one of the verses, it said that it was talking to the soldiers and it said, "Be content with your wages." You know, be content. Don't always try to get more. Strive after God, not after riches. May we keep learning together. Well, here's our new modern expression. This is, "For everything, there is a season." And the definition is, there is a right time for everything. And this comes from Ecclesiastes 3:1. "For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." And this verse also goes on to say, "A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted." And this was also a very famous song sung by the Byrds in the 1960s called "Turn, Turn, Turn." For everything, there is a season.